No one in the Hall of Suns understood why the royal guard obeyed the human, because he wore no crest, no rank, no jeweled mark of house or blood. Only a smoke-stained coat and the look of a man who had already chosen what he would die for. Yet when he stepped through the bronze doors and said, "Open the line to the throne," 20 armored guards moved before the nobles even finished gasping. Weapons lowered, command relays unlocked, and in that instant the court felt a realization. The stranger did not look like power. He looked like the reason power had once survived. Princess Lysera stood beside her father's throne with ash on her sleeves. Outside the crystal windows, the capital burned. Rebel ships had broken the inner defense line. The moon cannons were dead. And someone in the palace had severed the crown guard from the throne network. Then the human walked in through smoke, and somehow the room became more frightened of him than of the war outside. The chancellor demanded a name, demanded rank, demanded to know how a human had breached a sealed royal tier, but the intruder ignored him and crossed the hall. When 2 lancers moved to block his path, he stopped and spoke. 3 words in a language so old most people thought it belonged to myth. Both lancers stepped aside at once. A whisper of shock moved across the hall, because Lysera knew those words from forbidden fragments. They were part of the last warrant, a fail command meant for the Empire's darkest hour. The human reached the center dais and set a cracked metal cylinder on the floor. Palace systems flared to life. Ancient sigils circled him in pale gold light, and every noble face lost color together. Then he looked at Lysera and spoke in a voice low enough to sound like truth. "Princess, your father is alive," the coup failed. So they hid him beneath the western vaults and cut the guard network to finish the throne from the inside. The chancellor's face drained white at once. Then the human turned to the silent crown guard and said, "By the last warrant, protect the heir, break the usurper, restore the line." 60 pulse lances rotated as one and aimed at the court. What happened next did not feel like politics. It felt like buried law, returning with a blade in its hand. The chancellor reached for a sidearm and was slammed face first into marble. Ministers tried to flee, and the doors sealed before they reached them. Through all of it, the human never shouted. He only gave orders. Sharp, controlled, undeniable. Squad 7, Western Descent. Squad 12, Signal Spire. Eastern Wing is sheltering children, no collateral. Lysera should have demanded answers, but the man with no crest was the first person in the room, acting like the Empire still deserved to live. So she followed him into the emergency corridors while the palace transformed around them. Old lights woke, sealed bulkheads opened, defense drones unfolded from decorative walls, and every guard they passed made room for him without hesitation. A captain in black armor asked the question, choking everyone. "Who are you, human?" The stranger kept walking as he answered. "Adrian Vale, linekeeper to House Orin, appointed by Emperor Silas I, by witness, by living seal, suspended until lawful recall." The captain gave a stunned half-laugh. "Silas I has been dead for 3 centuries. Adrian glanced back once. "No, Captain. He has been missing for 3 centuries. Beyond the western vaults, they found the Emperor strapped inside a medical cradle, drugged, bleeding, and guarded by rebel officers in palace colors they had not earned." Blaster fire erupted the moment the doors blew inward. The corridor became a white furnace of sparks and shattered stone. Lysera hit the floor behind a support column, while the crown guard advanced in formation, and Adrian moved at the front of them with clarity. He was not bigger than the others, not armored like them, but he moved like a man who had once survived worse and did not intend to repeat himself. One rebel tried to drag the Emperor up as a shield. Adrian shot the weapon from his hand, crossed the room, and dropped him in 2 clean motions. Then silence rushed in, Lysira ran to her father. The Emperor blinked through the sedatives, saw Adrian, and smiled with recognition. "I was wondering how long you would make me wait," he whispered. The words hit her harder than the gunfire, because her father did not speak to the human like a stranger. He spoke to him like an oath, returning on schedule. When Lysira demanded the truth, the Emperor gave it between ragged breaths during the War of Severance. Humanity had not been conquered by Orin. Humanity had saved it. When the first Emperor's houses turned against each other and the Empire died unborn, a human commander named Adrian Vale had carried Celis through fire, helped forge the Covenant, and accepted Stasis Watch under the last warrant. To wake only if the line stood on the edge of extinction, by dawn, the rebel fleet was burning. The Crown Guard had crushed the coup from the palace outward, and every noble who survived now understood why the human with no crest had walked through royal steel like a command from heaven, not because he wore authority, but because he had helped build the oldest part of it with his own hands. When the Emperor was restored to the throne, he ordered the hidden archives opened, and among them lay the truth that struck the Empire hardest. The Crown Guard's first oath had never been sworn to the throne alone. It had been sworn to the covenant between Orin and the human commander who refused to let it die. Later, when the fires were out and the palace stood quiet, Lysira found Adrian alone on a balcony above the waking city, dawn turning the smoke to gold. She asked why he had come back for a people who had forgotten him. Adrian watched the sun rise over towers he had once seen as scaffolds, then answered, "Because crests fade. Bloodlines fail, and empires lie to themselves. But duty does not." And when the royal guard bowed to him that morning, it was not to a title, not to a ghost, not even to a hero. It was to the human thing their empire had almost lost forever. The will to stand when everyone else chooses to fall.